Today I'm going to talk to you about the security and the Internet of Things and the impact for device manufacturers and also for CIOs and CISOs in the enterprise. There have been three waves in the development of the Internet. The first one was back in the 90s. Remember the days when we used the modems and the ISDNs to connect to the Internet, to connect our desktops and laptops to the Internet. That was the first wave. And the second wave was in the 2000s, where we have a surge of smartphones that can connect to the Internet, and we can really connect to each other via wireless connections. And the third wave, which is happening now, is the Internet of Things. Basically, it's a very broad description and definition. Everything that can connect to the Internet or connect to each other, they can fit into this category of Internet of Things. And they can also connect through wired and wireless connections. And in terms of the verticals in the IoT, roughly it can be categorized into these 5 different categories. The wearables, the fitness bands, Fitbit, all those kind of things. Cars, Laura just mentioned. Homes, sprinklers, and probably Nest, all those different smart things. Cities, the traffic lights, meters, and even street lamps. We have smart street lamps now that can connect to the central system. And then there's also the industrial internet part. I think Nick touched on that a few days ago. These are according to a definition made by Goldman Sachs, interestingly. But you can see that there are a lot of things that are involved in this IoT. But there are a lot of challenges in terms of security. So HP did a study last year. They examined about 100 devices that they collected from the market. It includes fitness bands and smart routers, all these different things. And it turns out that in terms of security, it looks pretty bad. Basically, in each of these categories, over 50% of the devices they examined did not meet with these security requirements. For example, a lot of privacy concerns. The companies are collecting data from you without you knowing it. That's a privacy concern. Also, the authentication process for these IoTs that are very clear passwords or very simple passwords, they're not strong enough to sustain the attacks from the hackers. And also, as you can see, the transport encryption, because really, if you think about IoT, it goes beyond the devices themselves. They talk to each other. They talk to the Internet. They talk to your smartphones. They talk to other devices. So in terms of this transportation, many of these devices does not even encrypt the communications between these different devices. Many of these devices have web interfaces. Again, they don't use enough encryption methods to protect the communications. And a lot of devices, when they download firmware from the Internet for upgrade purposes, they don't encrypt the process. So think about someone who hack into your system and basically upgrade your firmware with their customized firmware for malicious purposes. That's a very scary picture. And one of the examples is, I think a few months ago, there was this report of someone hacking into a baby monitor and started teaching the baby some very inappropriate words. So you definitely don't want that to happen. And Laura mentioned earlier, some teenagers can hack into a smart car within 5 minutes. Definitely you don't want that to happen when you're driving at 70 miles per hour on a highway. That's very scary. And also in terms of the impact for CIOs and CISOs in enterprise, the first thing they need to do is to change their mindset. Because a lot of people are not aware, a lot of CIOs are not aware that this is happening. Like it or not, people are bringing in these IoTs into the environment, and they need to think of better ways to protect their existing enterprise environment. And also, they need to understand that it's constantly changing. It's not just this static IoTs. There'll be new devices, new security protocols, new things happening every day. And they need to think of a way to better protect their enterprise environment. So in response to all this bad picture I just painted, there are things that you can do to protect the devices and also to protect the enterprise environment. So basically, for the enterprise, they need to conduct a overview of all the devices that they purchased, and also for device manufacturers, they need to conduct a security analysis of the devices that are manufacturing. And there are some guidelines on the internet here. So there are not a lot of standardized protocols out there for you to follow, but there are some best practices that you need to follow. For example, this organization continues to publish guidelines for IoT devices. And also, it's not a one-time effort. Throughout the process of manufacturing, releasing, upgrading, and also the end of life of these devices, the device manufacturers need to take these security concerns into consideration. How to better protect their devices, and what happens if these devices are end of life and people are still using them. How to protect the hackers from attacking these devices. That's something they need to think of. Again, for CIOs and CISOs, one of the things that they need to think about is how to incorporate their existing security strategies and also add new components of the IoT devices into their overall security strategy. That's something they need to think about. In terms of the benefits, as you can imagine, especially in an enterprise or retail environment, by using these IoTs, they can really harness the power of real-time information, real-time analysis, so to reduce the operating costs and also to be more flexible and more informed in terms of decision making. So a lot of things here can happen if you can make appropriate use of your IoT devices, but also at the same time, you need to protect the data and security and privacy of your enterprise and of your consumers. So one of the big challenges here is to find good examples of how enterprises are protecting their IoT devices. This is the best one I can find so far. So basically, it's Bosch. They, in terms of planning and building their new plants and office environment, they really took into consideration and deployed a lot of IoT devices in their warehouse and also in their office environment. So they started from the very beginning in the planning stage. They really took into consideration all these security concerns, security risks to protect their enterprise environment. And also in terms of these traditional security vendors, because I interned at Symantec during the summer, and they actually just started to look into this IoT security thing. So they had a team of MBA interns and engineering interns to build a system on a Raspberry Pi. And my feeling is that they think it's still an immature market, but they think it's growing very fast, and they're putting a lot of concerns and considerations into it, but they don't have any actual products yet. So that's one of the biggest concerns.